The more times that you manipulate your part during the manufacturing process increases your chances of error. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the difference between 3 and 5-axis setups and how to consider that when designing your parts. So let's get into it. In the previous chapter, we talked about work holding and the difference between 3 and 5-axis machines, where we're going to have that billet clamped inside of that vise or on that fixture table. Now we're going to dive a little bit deeper and go to the programming side of that. So coming over here to the board, we're going to see that I have a diagram of a part here that has 3 main features on it. Feature 1 is on, we're going to call it the top. Feature 2 is on the side, and feature 3 is on the end. Now, I want to have one big assumption while we're going over this lesson here is that our billet is going to be the same size as our final part, meaning that we do not need to shape the outside of this part. We only need to add these 3 features to it. Now, with that being said, we have 3 and 5-axis machines that we talked about on the work holding, and so we kind of understand that when it is clamped down here, a 3-axis machine, we have to take it out to get to the next side. Versus a 5-axis machine is going to hold it, and then as my end mill comes down, manipulate my part to be able to get to each corner. Now, what does that actually cause on the programming side as well as your final part? Well, first of all, we're going to have a little review here. If I take this part out of the billet at any given time and put it back in, even in the same orientation, I can introduce error in the form of misalignment and excess tolerance. Now, the reason for that is that if my work area is not super clean, say a chip from a previous cut gets in between my clamp, say my finger here, and that billet, it can offset that billet. And we talked about before, those chips can be anywhere between 2, 3, maybe even 7/1000ths of an inch. And so that's going to shift that part over, causing that misalignment. Additionally speaking, the pressure in which you tighten your vise or the stops in which you push the block up against can all change by 1/1000th of an inch or 10/1000ths of an inch, depending on the tolerance that you're looking for. And that's typically why 3-axis machines are going to hold a little bit larger tolerance on more complex parts like this. Now, if we were only doing, say, feature 1, 3-axis machines and 5-axis machines, there's no difference between the two. We're going to put the block in, we're going to touch off to the block, known in space, and we're going to machine the top of the block. We don't need to manipulate the part at all. The second that we need to do that change is where we're going to see the large difference. Again, on 5-axis machines, we're going to have one setup to get to all 5 of these faces here, and this is going to reduce that human error that we're going to be putting into these parts, meaning that I can have one setup to go over this. To see that in a little bit of a different way, where I broke this down into 2 different columns here. For a 3-axis machine, we're going to have setup 1 is going to machine the top of our part. We're then going to take our billet out, rotate it up as setup 2, and we're going to do our feature on our second one. And then we're going to take it out again, rotate it to the top, and then manufacture our feature 3 into it. Versus our 5-axis machine, we're going to put the block in the machine, apply our fixture, our setup into it, and then it's going to then machine all 3 sides in one setup. Now, this all makes sense, but what I want you to see is in the CAD side of things, it looks a little bit different. We're going to end up seeing the tool being manipulated on our 5-axis setups, and we're not going to really see any changes per se on our 3-axis setups, but I want you to understand how those changes are being done. So with that, let's jump into CAD. All right, the first thing we're going to see here is that we have the block that I have on the board. We have those features. We have that top feature, our side feature 2, and our end feature 3. Now, I went ahead and created all of my setups ahead of time to make this a little bit quicker and simpler. The first thing we're going to see is a continuation off of our last lesson. So if you don't know how to make a setup, make sure you go back to lesson 2 and reevaluate that. Make sure you understand how to get to this point here, or a lot of this isn't going to make sense. Now, what I ended up doing is I picked my corner that I want my datum to be, or my work coordinate system to be based off of on this part. I picked this back coordinate, and I structured it so that my Z is up, my X is to the right, and my Y is away from me. So this part would be in the machine most likely like this. Now, once we have all of that, we can go ahead and create our tool path, which we're going to get into in the next lesson, on that work coordinate system, and we're able to machine this top one. Now, the first thing I want to talk about here is that we have the block mounted, and we have our back coordinate back here if we're facing away from that camera here, and we're machining this top. Now we're to the point where I need to pick this up, turn it, and grab back onto it to machine the next face. Coming back in here, what we can do is we can duplicate that last setup and pull in a new one. But realistically, I need to roll this part up into a new orientation, just like this. Now, I went ahead again and already did this, but I'm going to take you step by step through how to do it. So we're going to right click on this and edit. And the first thing we need to do is we just need to go into our work coordinate system on the first tab here and then select our new Z axis. So if we were down there, we're going to select that we want this vertical to be Z, and our X we want to continue on over here. Now, additionally speaking, we can also click our stock point and select that corner. Now, this leads me to another really important topic when we're picking out these corners, is that we want to continue with the same face or reference the same face as much as possible. If we reference the back face first, and then we reference the other face on the other side, if this part is dimensionally outside of tolerance or larger or needs to be machined further later on, then that can cause tolerance issues and misalignment in our finished part. So since I selected this part right here, or this corner, I'm referencing this face and this one. As I rotate this part up, that same face that I referenced in the very first operation, I'm going to reference again by picking out this corner as well as the side here. So we're staying with the same two planes on that box point. Once we have all of that selected, we can go back in here, clicking OK. And now we can apply our second operation, which is a pocket inside of here. Now we have one last one to do. So we're going to grab onto our third coordinate system. We need to rotate this part up. Again, making sure that we keep consistent with these two sides here since we just referenced them. So if we go back here, we can see that we were on this face and this one. And we can roll up here to having these two faces still being referenced. You can see here I already swapped out my Z so that it's up, my X is in the same direction, Y is in the same direction. Now all we have to do is add our pocket, and we have all three faces. Each time I took that part out, that's that opportunity for that misalignment and the tolerance stack up to start taking effect. Now, here what we're going to do is go back into CAD and show the fifth axis setup and how much simpler it is to make a better understanding of that. With our fifth axis selected, we can pick our coordinate system or where that part is in space, but this is going to be dependent on the machine on how you want to do it with your X and Y. So just make sure that you're matching the machine that you're looking at. From there though, we're going to create all three of our operations, the first one being our pocket. The difference on this is that we're going to, when we create that side pocket, we're going to go into edit. We're going to select multi-axis on our tabs, which is the second one over. We're going to choose our tool orientation to be rotated into a new Z axis. So if I remove this, I'm going to rotate and say that I want this to be my Z axis. I need to make sure that the Z is flipped to be positive away from the part, because that'll be the direction we want. And then I can click OK. That essentially just flips that part and that tool to be sticking up. Now, one really important thing to note here is that it looks like the tool is going from here to here. But what realistically is happening is that the part is rotating up. So it's a little bit of a misconception when you're working inside of CAD to not fully understand what is actually moving in space. This one is your part, not your tool. We can repeat this one more time, going to our top, selecting the Z to be correct, and then we get that finished product here. If I go and I right-click and simulate my process, we can see here that I'm going to mill out the top, then that side, then the end in that order, just like we had on the board. Now, there's obviously a very big difference between the setups of 3 and 5 axis machines, and that's why places like SendCutSend choose to do 5 axis, Not only is it faster, it's also cheaper for you, and it holds a better tolerance. That wraps up this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to dive back into our chapter sample part and start machining it in CAD to better understand how to design around it. So we'll see you on the next one.